Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. The final bills are currently being printed, and they will soon be sent up for votes. The respective leaders have been discussing the bills with their conferences, and we're going to wrap up the session. I am personally very happy and very proud of this legislative package. I think it's responsive to the problems that we're pressing the state right now. I think it actually is a very robust and extensive legislative package of reforms that goes a long way towards making the state a better state. We have a bill on sexual assault on campuses that is the smartest and toughest bill in the United States. I think it's going to set a new national model for other states to follow. We have the best extension of rent protections for the people in New York City that has ever been passed. The state was actually rolling back rent extensions for rent laws for many, many years. 2011, and this year we actually extended the protection for tenants, and this year's bill goes further than any bill in history. We have a $1.3 billion property tax reform that the Senate had advocated, which I think is exactly right. Property taxes are the albatross around the neck of this state when it comes to growth. The state has disproportionately high property taxes, and this $1.3 billion rebate program will actually go a long way towards giving New Yorkers real relief. We have an education reform package that extends parents' choice. It opens up what I call the black box of SED when it comes to testing and questions, and that goes a long way. $250 million in mandated services that will give much-needed support to the non-public schools. If our private schools and parochial schools continue to close, it would place a burden on the public system that we can't now handle. So making sure the public system is strong and the non-public system is strong is vital for both. And this bill does just that. It also extends parental choice with more charter school options, et cetera. We, by executive order, but with the assent of both houses, I will be appointing the Attorney General Special Prosecutor for situations dealing with a non-elected public official who, in the course of duty, kills someone who is unarmed. This, I think, will go a long way towards restoring trust in the criminal justice system. As everyone knows, there's been a plague across the country of incidents and situations that have shaken the trust in the criminal justice system. And this state will once again be the first state to respond with an institutional reform. We're going to revisit the issue next year, but this is a positive step forward that we're proud of. The so-called raise the age, we take the first step by having 16 and 17-year-olds removed from state prisons. And that is a very big deal, and it was a major imperative for this session. And we'll be creating facilities designed for those 16 and 17-year-olds that will be much more appropriate than a state prison. A situation developed with nail salons in New York City, and we passed a piece of legislation that is the first step towards addressing a much larger issue, which is the exploitation of undocumented workers in the state of New York. Again, it's a national problem, but it's a problem here in New York. The nail salon situation is just one manifestation of what is a much larger crisis. We have a wage board that we expect to come up with a aggressive resolution for minimum wage for fast food workers that we're excited about. The Yonkers school system was in peril and in crisis. They had a danger of asking 200 teachers to leave their positions because of a financial gap, and the state is going to step up to the plate with a financial package to address the Yonkers situation. We have Port Authority reforms that we've talked about for a long time, but Assemblyman Jim Brennan and Senator Andrew Lanza did a lot of good work with our neighbors across the river in New Jersey to come up with a Port Authority reform package, and I can go on and on. But it is a very extensive package that makes this state a better state. I also want to thank the leaders for the professionalism and orderly process that this session has been conducted. I want to thank the Senate for their extension of the rent laws over the past weekend, which gave the legislature time to go home and think about issues and then come back and have an expeditious resolution. I want to thank the teams that have done work on this project. This was a massive undertaking, and the Senate and the Assembly teams worked literally day and night to get this done. I don't know how, just from a stamina point of view, they do it. But Robert Mujica and Beth Garvey in the Senate really did extraordinary work. Jim Yates and Luann Saccone did extraordinary work. And personal indulgence, my team, which was Bill Mulrow, Secretary, Jim Malatras, Director of Operations, and Alfonso David, who did a phenomenal job as the counsel to see us through this process. Most of all, I want to thank my two colleagues, Speaker Carl Hastie and Senate Leader John Flanagan. As I said before, as I've said publicly and I've said privately, these gentlemen were in a very difficult situation. To step in as a new leader and to step in under the circumstances that they stepped in was extraordinarily difficult. And to step in at a point in the process where everything was already in motion. We had put a very aggressive agenda on the table in January when we did the State of the State. After we did the State of the State and set the agenda in January, we had all sorts of unexpected situations develop. And that these gentlemen could step in and step up in the midst of all of that and make the government work and make it work in an orderly way was extraordinary. And it wasn't easy. I can tell you that. These issues are controversial. They're difficult. We like to advocate in the ideal, but then we live in the real. And they had to fight for their conference, fight for their perspectives, which on many occasions are different. That's what democracy is all about. But you also have to have the intelligence to realize that at the end of the day, progress is better than stalemate. And that's exactly what you see today. So on a personal and professional level, I want to thank them for not only waging a very strong and ferocious battle, but reaching a reasonable and intelligent compromise that, frankly, no one is exactly happy with everything. And if the Assembly had their way, you'd have a different set of legislative proposals. If the Senate had all their way, there'd be a different set of legislative proposals. But this is a package that works for the state, and that's what's most important.